Where will the future of mobility take us? Everything about the way we travel from one place to another is changing. Imagine a world where vehicles hardly crash, traffic jams are rarities, energy demand drops, and costs per trip plummet. If you're in the auto industry, you're probably already thinking about what these potentials mean. But the emergence of autonomous vehicles and the continued growth of car and ride-sharing affect everyone. We're all part of a $2 trillion mobility ecosystem, and transportation involves all of us. This means that business leaders in a wide range of industries need to start asking some tough questions. If fewer people drive using less gas, who are the winners and losers? What does it mean for oil companies, or for parking garages, or the billboard operators that depend on drivers seeing their ads? If fewer cars are on the road, what happens to the public infrastructure that is funded by revenues from license tags, tolls, parking meters, and speeding tickets? If there are fewer car accidents, how does the landscape change for auto and health insurers, or for auto repair shops and healthcare providers? The transformation is already underway in some industries, but everything won't change at once. So no matter how your company is linked to transportation, you'll need to be able to execute as usual and in entirely new ways, both in your hometown and in emerging economies with completely different infrastructures. As cars become increasingly connected and autonomous, and ride-sharing becomes more prevalent, organizations should begin considering potential alternate futures to figure out where their business is headed. The road ahead is winding, and the scenery profoundly new. Be careful not to make a wrong turn.
各位下午好，今天允许我代表 CES Asia 和德勤，欢迎大家来参加我们今天下午的3段的研讨会。今天呢，德勤很高兴呢有机会参加这一个活动。这3个研讨会呢，第一部分是关于移动出行的，等一会我们就会开始这一段。之后2点钟呢，我们有一个智慧城市的研讨会。之后呢，这最后一场呢是关于消费者出行选择方面的各种的转变。希望对大家是有用。我们也很希望有机会你们有问题可以发问，我们可以互相的去交流一下。所以现在我们要请 Marco Hacker 德勤中国汽车行业主管合伙人上来展开我们今天的第一场的研讨会。Marco。
Thank you, John. I think I should be mic'd up on this one. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. The future of mobility, and the future is happening, and everybody's reading about it. A lot of drivers are happening, and everything is happening at the same time. Starting from more mature battery technologies, lightweight, connectivity, we have autonomous driving not being a pilot, but it's in reality now. So, but what does it really mean? And we mentioned it earlier, and we started the panel discussion earlier. It's 9 trillion RMB, which are at stake of the connected automotive industry and the value chain from a mobility perspective in China every year. So there's a lot of money. And when there's a lot of money, there are a lot of people who are basically interested in serving those customers and making money. There are 2 different types and visions that are emerging. One, on the right-hand side you see, there's the classic insider view. Our car manufacturers, classic automotive suppliers, who have to reinvent themselves. They have a lot of assets and they need to manage the existing world as well as getting into the future world, which has a lot of challenges. On the other side, on the left-hand side, you see the disruptors. The disruptors, they come from a pure customer perspective. They don't have the assets and the liabilities which are going with it. And these are the guys who are helping to be the catalysts of the future of mobility. And there will be a tipping point, and we're quite sure about that, where we will get into a shared autonomous mobility society pretty soon. There are 4 different scenarios, and if you think about that simple picture, the only thing you need to remember is one is really who is driving the car. The person, is it driver, assist, or there's a big line between assisted drive and really level 5 fully autonomous driving. And the second dimension is really about who owns the car. Is it an individual or is it a kind of shared? And this will give you 4 different in parallel scenarios of the future mobility. Where those scenarios will be leading to and how you'll be moving into those scenarios. This strongly depends on where you are in that ecosystem and where you are in the market. What's really important, and each of us here in the room, we live this. For us, the future mobility in China is already an existing dream. So the big difference between China and the rest of the world is that in China we're used to take a high-speed train which takes us from Shanghai to Beijing within less than 5 hours, right? So whether you go to Grand Central from Westchester or you go somewhere from one outskirts of Beijing into downtown, it's the same amount of time, but you're covering much bigger distances. The expectations are much different. So how do we manage intermodal ways of transportation? So there are a lot of questions. Maybe there are more questions than there are answers, and that's why we have the panel discussion. And I want you to welcome with me our panelists for the first discussion around the ecosystem and what will emerge. One, I would like to ask Jack Cheng to join us, please, on stage. Jack is the co-founder. He's the executive vice president of NIO and also the president of XPT. Jack. Thank you. Please. Second one, there is Mr. Zhao. He's leading the Research Innovation Center for JAC Auto. He's one of, if you heard about Witstar, I don't know how to pronounce the Chinese name, but he's the mastermind behind that, expert on autonomous driving. Please welcome. Thank you. Last but not least, Anna Haupt. Anna Haupt is leading the R&D and product innovation at NEVS. Let me congratulate you to the launch today, this morning, of the 9.3 and the 90X. Expert in autonomous driving, and if you had the chance to go on the show, there's the future of mobility as one of the examples and one of the potential outcomes, which is driven by NEVS. So welcome everybody, and let's start the discussion. One last reminder, you have these kind of cards in front of you. If you scan the QR code, you can post your questions online, and we'll be answering those questions. So maybe, Jack, we start with you. Give us a view of future mobility. You've been starting your career on the traditional side of automotive. Now you're leading, you're spearheading the disruption in China with NIO. What's your vision, and what role are you playing with your company?
Thank you, Marco and John. It's a pleasure to be here. I can use English and Chinese if you like, but let me start with the English so everybody understand. If there's any Chinese communication, you can come to me in Chinese either. I have been in the automotive industry for 33 years, and with my previous experience in Ford and the Fiat Chrysler, I've been managing the country and also the region in both supply chain and also come to a joint venture partnership. Eventually, before I come to set up this NIO, the new company, I was the chairman of Fiat Chrysler China. And the reason of the move was seeing about 2 or 3 years ago, there's a lot of movement, particularly on the consumer interface. We have bumped into a lot of issues with the regulation and with the CAFE, which is in China we call it CFC. The target to go to a 5 liter per 100 kilometer is kind of a challenge, and then we believe that in the next few years the big guys won't be able to make it. To move on, whether we have a chance to cope with the regulation, that's one set. The other set is really the consumer. The current consumer, the user experience will basically covered by the forest dealer. That's a challenge because after we sold the car, as a OEM, traditional OEM, everything's done. It will be all engagement with the dealership, the insurance company, and also even the third party. If there's a quality issue, you go with your lawyer, your accountant, and your consultant, or government relationship, trying to cover all the issues. So that really prompted me to rethink of the strategy of moving forward. the future mobility really come into the term just a couple of years ago. People are still wondering and skeptical about what's going on. But now it's a reality. Everything is moving to L2, L3. Even now, people are working on L4 and L5. That's the mobility things. But I think the key is that how do you ride on this wave? I just remember before I set this up with William in NEO, I attended an audience about 2,000 kids in a big forum. And most of the kids were talking about the internet, the connectivity. And the traditional guy was sitting there still talking about the performance, the technology, and also all these other solutions. But viewing our future, the new generation, the new wave of buyer who were born after 1985 or 1990 now, their life are basically built on mobility. Some of the guys, they don't really care because they were born in a traffic jam. So what can they do? They have no enjoyment in terms of the car racing, they enjoy the car riding. The end of the day really is how are we going to manage the mobility in the best way to the consumer's benefit? And I think that we can pound that discussion later. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. Working for a company which has 1,000 people in Sweden and 1,500 in China. You've been working on the autonomous side and product innovation for all your life, on one and the other. What are those unmet needs, and what are the differences that you see between Chinese consumers and the rest of the world?
I would say the difference is between huge megacities and smaller cities in the world. I see that the problems in traffic situations in bigger cities are the same globally, and we're not facing the same problems in smaller cities. I live now in Trollhättan, which is a tiny city in Sweden, where there's still room for cars. But I think for the future, it's really needed that we see mobility as something completely different in bigger cities of the world than we approach things today.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Zhang Hongchan, tell us a little bit more. You've been focusing on autonomous driving all your life. You're coming from a product side and you've been changing the way that GAC thinks about autonomous. Where do you see the future, and is there really a question about will there be an autonomous driving future, or what is the prediction and the forecast that you see for autonomous driving in China? When will it be real, and when can we all experience it in our day-to-day life?
Okay, thank you. 我还是以中文来解释这个问题。OK。其实现在这个无人驾驶呢是一个非常热的话题。那刚才也讲了，将来移动出行的一个必然结果呢就是无人驾驶。无人驾驶呢，它会结合这个互联网，包括这个自我感知来推进这个事情。那么现在来讲，对我们广汽来讲，我们其实也在积极推进无人驾驶。应该说刚才他问了一个问题，说是这个无人驾驶要多长时间能实现，可能是吧？那我认为可能要到5年、10年后，5年后应该是可能更多的是高级的辅助驾驶，但是10年后呢，无人驾驶可能就是真正实现的那一天。我说的这个无人驾驶应该是 Level 4或者是 Level 5的无人驾驶。那么对于我们广汽来讲呢，实际也在做2条路在做，一个是我们两个团队在做一件事情，一个是做辅助驾驶，这是比较现实的。我们在量产的车上都已经包括车道保持，还有这个前棚预警等等，甚至包括自动泊车，很快都会在我们量产车上面得到应用。那么另一个团队我们在做这个就是 Level 4或者是这个 Level 5的这个无人驾驶。那么这一条路呢，我们觉得还是一条比较长的路，可能也是比较困难的一条路。可能要到10年我估计，但是这个技术需要一个沉淀和一个积累的过程。但是同时呢，我们两个团队也是相互结合的，就是比如说这个自动泊车，那么我们就是这个技术呢，就来自于我们这个无人驾驶团队，就是说朝向这个 Level 4、Level 5的这个团队的这个技术，我们可以把这个技术孵化到这一个 ADAS 这个辅助驾驶这一块去。那么我个人认为呢，这是一条比较现实的路，特别对于我们主机厂来讲，这也是我们跟这个可能跟互联网区间最大的不同之处，也是我们主机厂一个优势所在啊。我个人认为，我们希望两条路并行走，终有一天，我相信无人驾驶，也许在10年后，可能15年后，我相信真正的无人驾驶必然会实现。Thank you.
So Anna talked about the differences and the similarities. Everybody is very fast in talking about the differences of China, but Anna, you answered the question again from a customer perspective and very different than the traditional guys that I thought about it. So there are similarities between the rest of the world and China, between urban and suburban, and so where will autonomous happen and what are the first commercial applications? What do you see there?
Yes, 这也是一个非常现实的问题啊，对吧？其实在中国这个交通环境、交通工况非常复杂，跟国外是完全不一样的，可能是吧？我们想在2020年前后，应该是部分的高速驾驶或者自动驾驶应该在高速公路上有可能先实现。那么也有一部分场景可能一些特定的工况或者是园区里面可能会有无人驾驶实现，这些线路是固定的。那么这依赖于可能还有一部分技术可能依赖于这个 V2X 的技术。那么在这些场合呢是比较容易实现这个 V2X。那么这样结合我们这个车的自我感知，应该是可以实现无人驾驶。那么大家可以看到现在这个叫什么车道跟随，或者是这个车叫什么？就是我们跟这个前车之间保持一定距离，这个是自动驾驶是在车道上是可以实现，在高速公路上可以实现。我举一个例子吧，这地方，像我们量产的 GS8 这块车上，其实已经配置了这个 ICC 功能。那么举个例子，我们高速可以限速80公里，但是我把车可以设定100公里，然后我这车跟前面一个车就可以自动跑，我只要掌握方向盘，就给我把我的2个轿都可以解放出来。那么下一步我们希望是把这个车道保持也把它开发出来，应该也是很快，我们希望在2018、19年，在我们量产车上搭载这个车道保持。那么这样在高速上，其实大家可以预计到，很快就可以，应该在2019、2020年前后，我相信高速公路上可以实现这个量产的无人驾驶啊，这量产的无人，这不是Level 4，不是Level 5，希望大家区别开来。
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Jack, so this sounds like a lot of technology, and we talked quite a bit now about, or a little bit about the consumer, more about autonomous driving. What are the business models that you see, and which role are you playing in that ecosystem? What are the partners, and where are the differences?
Yeah, thank you, Marco. The thing that Mr. Sun mentioned about is the ACC, the 自动跟车这个。All this technology is going to be evolved into how to prevent people from accident, and really that's a passive way. When you become more proactive way, is called, are you going to manage this with like the less fatality on the street? There are about 1.2 million people killed on the road every year. Globally. In China, about 200,000. So if we can manage this right for our kids, this is going to be substantially reduced with autonomous. But so far, the L2, L3, L4, if you define, it's the foot off, the hands off, the eyes off, the minds off. These are the 4 categories of, we call it generic. Really, the consumer, are they confident enough they will be able to move on to a totally eyes off? Not yet. So really, a matter of combination of EV plus all this autonomous process is the key, because EV with the e-motor react in millisecond. For gasoline engine or diesel, it needs a ramp-up time. So if you compare the EV or even hybrid versus the traditional combustion engine, the safety allowance is really low for those traditional cars. That's where EV will prevail. And if you don't have that kind of a foundation, the autonomous won't work. That's my understanding. You might say, okay, there will be a lot of regulation, but regulation is stipulated by eventually the marketplace, then government will use that to form a new platform. For us, the regulation is all about whether our generation, our new generation, will be in a safer, healthier, and even environmental-free, issue-free environment. That's something that we have to work very, very hard on that. Consumer, of course, it will be coming with this direct engagement. Now, I think we respect what Tesla has been doing to do away with the dealership, but in China, we have even a better environment to do it because the government incentivizes all these things. I think we have a good chance to do it. My perspective is even faster than everybody was talking about 10 years. When I started this journey 2 years ago, everybody was still kept skeptical, as I say. Now it's happening. So I will see this is coming very, very, if you go to California every year, you will see the difference. It's coming very, very fast.
Anna, I had the chance to sit in your company's vision of the future of mobility, and as soon as the door closes, it's a pod, no steering wheel, very flexible interior design. The car was built from inside out. So very interesting, and it changed the feeling. Can you share a little bit more about the vision of the future of mobility and how the different parties, yourself, your partners that you're developing the car, your part in the puzzle with municipalities and other business partners, how does that ecosystem work?
Well, first of all, I think that when you talk about like eyes off, foot off, feet off, hands off, mind off, that is from a driver perspective. When I talk to friends living in Stockholm, capital of Sweden, for instance, they don't even bother getting a driving license anymore. It's more efficient to go with public transportation of any kind. And I see in bigger cities of the world that younger people don't care about owning their car anymore. It's not interesting. It's not a status symbol. So what we will see in the future is having the car as a way of transport yourself from A to B in the most efficient, with no time consumption. That will be the focus for younger generations to come, and it will move faster, as you say, always faster than we believe. So what we are preparing for at NEVS, we're preparing for this not far future where people want to transport themselves efficiently and not be sitting in queues for hours in traffic. It's not enjoyable in any way, and to waste your life behind the wheels is not interesting for future generations. Yeah. So I think the concept that you described, that we showed this morning, is about fully autonomous vehicles in the cities, and I think the cities will become, even though from the software perspective, it's much easier to make a software and design a software for highway than for urban traffic, where you have a lot of problems and challenges with people running away, running everywhere, and you have bicyclists everywhere. So it's really a complex situation for the software to take care of urban transportation. But if you look at it from a user perspective, it's much more interesting to have autonomous vehicles in cities than on highways, because you have the congestion problems, the pollution problems that you need to take care of. And I think that is why we are looking into, and that is why I am looking into making vehicles adapted for the urban needs for the future.
Mm-hmm. Jack, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm not going to debate with the ladies. So if I debate with my wife,
use the word but here.
Please do.
I have no chance at home. In this forum, I would like to just talk about owning a car in California, which is the best state for Uber. Even that situation in California, the growth rate of the car ownership is still growing like 8 to 10% year over year. So I believe people still want to own a car. A car sharing or mobility platform could be used on a working progress, but in terms of vacationing and also there's a chance for leisure, you still want to own a car. So it's a human's nature. So with that, I think for automotive industry, we still have a chance I'm a traditional guy. Turning to this head, we need to create a value.
said it.
She just clarified. What is your view? What's the advice, or what do you see the difference between what both of the disruptors are talking here and what your company is doing?
In most things, I agree with Anna. 我还是以我自己认为啊，我其实这个随着时间的这个变化，人的观念的变化，我们3个人可能代表了不同一个时代，是吧？对于
We have to pick one bad guy. Usually it's the other way around to me.
正宗明显是不接受这个 autonomous driving， 但是 Anna and me we are quite pleasure to accept the autonomous driving。我们2个是应该是，我想更年轻的在80、90后会更容易接受这个无人驾驶。其实现在我们在研究院就做了一个尝试，在我们研究院，其实有好多员工在下班的时候就是拼车，这其实也是一种 car share 的一种概念，我觉得。那么在以后呢，我相信这个如果是无人驾驶，其实还有一个可能这个需要一段时间，我觉得是10年甚至15年后。那么这个时候，如果是这车真的可以达到无人驾驶程度，我相信应该会越来越少的人去愿意开车，我觉得。当然，郑总可能有不同意见啊，对吧？因为他可能喜欢车，喜欢驾车的这个乐趣。但是以后更多的是车上可能更多的是无人驾驶车的时候，我相信如果是驾驶员开车，可能会更加的不安全。我认为有那么一天，我相信，对吧？但是这可能还要很长的一段时间。OK。
I think we mentioned it earlier, right? There are different scenarios and we will not change overnight. So I think there's still an element of self-driving. And the Chinese government, even the Chinese government, will not regulate in a way and just lock everything and don't allow us to buy all the petrol heads in the room to buy the car and drive our cars. But the insurance premiums might go up. We might not be allowed to go into the inner cities with those cars, but there will be always a mix. I got a couple of questions now from the audience. The question is, who is the China's Tesla? Whoever wants to ask that question. And when do you expect user-based insurance in China? So who wants to take that one?
I can answer the Tesla question.
Tesla?
No, Tesla's already done. So we're looking further ahead.
Okay.
我回答一下这个问题，用中文啊。这个他说中国特斯拉，那我们要讲中文才行嘛，对不对？在特斯拉成立的时候是2004年，它是在10年以后才真正进入这个移动互联网时代，所以在这个之前所产生的这一些当然特斯拉移动的非常快，我们非常尊敬特斯拉，但是它也有它的这个包袱，因为在2010年之前所成立的这些汽车公司啊，它那时候还没有足够的这个所有移动互联网的这个基础在那儿，就像最近的这个摩拜单车啦、OFO 这些，因为有移动互联网的基础，他们能够在这个平台上面很快的成长起来，所以这个曲线是这样子的。那如果说大家还在谈说怎么样成为一个中国的特斯拉，我觉得那是太二了。真正应该说怎么在一个新的客户为导向的这个环境里面，你成为这边其中的佼佼者，但是是不是只有你一个人成为，并不是的，应该是一群人的所有的行为，就像这个卖家具在吉盛伟邦的这个整个城里面，大家一起卖，不能说只有一个或两个。特斯拉现在在美国是蛮孤单的，但我相信在中国呢，咱们不是很孤单，一群人一起搞嘛，台上就有2个了，然后到时候广汽跟我们大家合作，搞不好就3个，我们成为一个这个Blue Sky Team， 我们的公司的 logo 是 Blue Sky is coming， 如果大家能够成为Blue Sky Team， 这个 team 呢，能够把我们整个平台做起来，把成本降下来，能够让消费者很快能够享受到这个电动车加上这个移动互联网的这个自动驾驶的乐趣，这才是我们将来需要做的路。Sorry, it's in Chinese.
No, that's okay. We have good translation. Jonathan, tell us a little bit more about from a government perspective. So if everybody wants blue sky, the Chinese government really literally wants blue sky and pushing a lot, and with subsidies we talked about it a little bit. But what is the role, and how do you expect that role of the government to maybe change in the future in that whole ecosystem?
其实这个呢，中国政府呢，应该是在这个产业腾飞方面，应该是给了很大的支持。特别呢，我们也是受益者之一，应该广汽也是。但是同时呢，这个我觉得政府这一块其实也不应该介入太多啊，这叫就是介入太多反而也不是件好事情。我觉得企业还是要做企业的事情，企业的决策应该由企业自己来决定。我相信每个企业都会为自己的发展负责。但是呢，在这个关于的这个无人驾驶或者是这个网联驾驶这一块来讲，那么这个可能需要一个政策的规范，我觉得这个需要尽快鼓励它、支持它。其实这一块我感觉中国可能比美国慢了一步，但是中国政府包括我们了解到渠道呢，也在加快这个步伐，也在制定这个政策和法律法规，包括这个标准。那么其实这个是非常紧迫的。现在国内应该各个主机厂，包括我们这个蔚来，包括在这个正宗这边，那么很多人都在做无人驾驶。那么我希望政府这一块呢，他只要做这个引导就可以了，不需要再介入这个企业的运营和这个企业的市场地位呢，我觉得不应该介入太多啊。这是我对政府的一些希望政府在政策层面多做些贡献。
So when you talk about guidance, there are 15 licenses right now. Nobody knows how many more licenses. I think there are another 15 players in line waiting for a manufacturing license on the EV side. How does that play out, and how can China be really, from the consumer perspective, how can I as a consumer benefit from that, one, and how does that help China to really get on the global agenda? Maybe we start with you and then everybody to answer the same question.
You first.
No, you first. You have the mic.
Okay, I can pick it up so they can spend more time wrapping up. I think that there's a chance that we leverage the capacity. When you say there are 15 licenses being issued, and then just the last couple of days they're going to stop it. The thing is, whether you be able to manufacture a product and the quality, timing, and cost in the level that the consumer will accept it. So it doesn't matter whether you have the license to go or not, because after you have the license, then you still have to prove your production okay, validation, so-called in Chinese called 准入. That's going to take the whole 9 yards. It's going to take a long time. So what we can do is we leverage the capacity of our partnership, including the Blue Sky team that I mentioned, make it a splash and make the volume big, so we can benefit from the cost reduction of the platform, particularly in the EDS system, the eDrive system, and also the battery and the ESS system. These are the elements of the car that account for about 40% of the future vehicle. And if you can do it right, with an 8% to 10% year-over-year cost reduction, you will hit a price that will be able to compete in the marketplace versus a traditional gasoline car.
Just let me clarify. So you're basically saying that competitors need to collaborate to enjoy economies of scale around powertrain and manufacturing?
Yeah. Yes. So those 15 licensee should be able to look into the future and then say, well, we collaborate together. We don't want to waste time. Like last 30 years, this country has been divided into Beiqi, Yiqi, Erqi. All these are really, diluted the effort that we are going to make this automotive industry more healthy and best for the customer.
Okay.
那么刚才讲这个问题，我觉得中国跟那个美国可能有不同之处。中国是在这个前期在这个获得这个 license 的时候呢，可能要求比较严格一点。但是美国呢是这个上市以后的这个检查比较严格一点。那像大众就是吃了这个亏，对吧？那我相信这个50 license 这也不是一个一成不变的一个数字，我相信后面肯定还会增加。但是这可能要求我们就是可能我们这些厂家要具备这个资质，不对，应该具备这个条件，就是包括设计能力，包括生产能力，各方面都要考核的更加严格。这其实应该也是政府对这个新能源车的要求呢更加严格、更加负责任，我觉得是这样的，应该是吧
？Okay. Anna, what's your view in terms of economies of scale and the statement from Jack?
I think there might be a lacking of EVs in the future. There might be not enough EVs enough for the demand. That might be one of the outcomes. On the other hand, I think it's good to have that they raise the questions about quality of vehicles. I mean, vehicles can be, of course, very dangerous as well, and I think it's very important to take care of the safety aspects and have these controls that they have for the production.
Okay. I don't know whether you can read from there the question that came from the audience, which is close by. So how could we erase the consumer's concern on safety of mobility and car sharing?
Yeah, I think safety is one very important issue. I think for all automakers, it's a natural part of development of vehicles. So it's something that we take very seriously, obviously. I think one automaker that will make vehicles that kills people is end. They will die sooner or later. So safety is very important, of course, obviously. But I don't know if I need to comment that any more than that.
But what are other concerns, right? So on one hand side, if you think about people who own an EV and intenders, right? So what are the concerns, maybe from some of the research that you've done or that you've done, what needs to be done in terms of product as well as marketing and the customer experience to make people be more open to share vehicles and to embark to a shared mobility and shared society?
If I may, I think in order for people to start sharing vehicles, we need to have like more a carrot approach than something else. We need to have mobility services that apply the needs better and that can make the travel experience much better and more efficient than owning your own car. So it's not about making something that forces people into a system that they don't like. It has to be something that you want to start using because it's much better for you, more cheap, more efficient. And also I think it's very important that car sharing is something, it's a mobility system, and if it's adapted for city environments, you can very easily transport yourself with different kinds of, I'm looking for this English word, subscriptions, so that you can have different levels of quality also. Mm-hmm. So I think definitely it's very important to make the trip individually adapted.
Okay.
Can I add on? And I think that for a safer car or even a better infrastructure for the future mobility really is coming, first of all, the foundation of the e-motor. That in terms of the bill of material, if I come from a supply chain point of view, you have about 20% reduction of the parts count. There's no fuel tank anymore, there's no exhaust, no filtering, there's no crankshaft, and all these parts are gone. It will be housed in the e-motor, and the e-motor, not to 100, is much faster. Some cars are even just like Ferrari level. That is kind of a satisfaction, and also that give you a protection of safety because that react to the critical situation faster. One thing. Second thing, the technology is really pound on the improvement in electronics. Electronics has improved substantially for the last 10 years. And if you see the battery now with the cell, if you look at the cell, the ppm level for a cell that easy to get thermal effect, in Chinese we call solar, but in English sense more moderate. It's like thermal impact. It used to be 2 million per 1 per 2 million cell it burned. Now the production can improve to 1 per 5 million. So that's tell that there's a substantial improvement in electronic, and then the consumer will benefit from it. The platform itself is there already. The aluminum body, the best technology in the lightweight, carbon fiber is going forward. So it will be lighter, the heart will be stronger, and the mind, which is the autonomous and the vehicle intelligence, will be even smarter. So these are the things that I think for our future mobility, it will help a lot. But coming back, in the end, I just spend 1 more minute on that, is really how are we going to engage the customer faster? There's always a defect. For instance, the airbag issue. Just past years, there's a whole bunch of fatality on the one of the airbag supplier. It's because the transparency is not there. When there's a fatality happen, people are trying to finger pointing and doesn't really engage the consumer right away or even engage with the manufacturer. So when they finalize this issue after several months, there's already a dozen people died. Nowadays, in the future mobility, we have a chance to use the internet to manage that transparency, open up to the supply base, and manage that relationship. When you have the problem, the first guy to know is the guy who manufactures that. It's not the dealer. It's not the insurance company. We can manage that as a group, and then we can make a better life.
我来补充2点啊，对吧？我觉得这车呢，其实对我们主机厂来讲，应该把车做得更加智能化，更加2点，一个是更加智能化，更加安全。我觉得这2点非常关键。我觉得只有做了这2点，我觉得大家才愿意去接受这个新的事物。更加智能化呢，我觉得现在车呢，其实我们已经是在逐步朝这个方向在做。我们比如说这个自动泊车，其实现在自动上应该说技术上已经是方案上是成熟的了。但是这个跟那个智能化还远远不够，还有很远的距离。然后在安全这一块呢，大家可能更加关心。刚才其实安全呢，不光是个人的安全，实际上这个之前我们曾做过一个调研，特别是政府关心这个问题。那么如果所有的这一个车队或者是这一个公司的车被黑客如果攻破了，会发生什么结果呢？非常可怕的一个结果，对吧？所以这个不光是这个安全，还包括信息安全，包括云管端，这3端都要做好这个安全才可以。还有一个可能需要一个平台，一个良好的运营平台。就包括这可能需要主机厂跟我们互联网公司或者是这些创业公司一块来合作做这个平台，甚至包括政府来监管这个事情。我举一个例子，就是说也是前2天跟我一个同事聊天的时候，他谈的一个例子，一个女孩晚上打车与滴滴打车啊，她不敢打这个私家车，但是愿意打这个出租车，为什么呢？就是因为出租车比较安全，她对它有信任度。我相信，所以说这个随着这个时间推移，我们车做的更加安全，这个监管也更加到位。那么我相信这个智能驾驶或者这车辆跟车辆的共享，应该是大家愿意接受的。
You raised one important point. Who owns the data? One question is, if me as a customer working with all of you guys, everybody has a product. Let's assume Shanghai in 10 years from now, maybe 5. Do I have to have 5 apps? To have a seamless flow to go now from Pudong back to my home in Hongqiao, starting with your mobility service, then I stop over and I switch in one of your cars, and or I own one of your cars and then I want to switch in one of your pods. How does it work? So who owns the data in your vision? And second, how many apps do I have to use as a customer? Who's bringing all you guys together to have a seamless perspective? Maybe start with you, Anna.
I think personal integrity is very important. I think it's very important that we have the debate on whether the person yourself owns the data about where you're going, and I think it's from an automaker perspective, it's very important that we are very clear on what data we collect and what data you as a person and as a user want to share or not. That is one thing that I think is very important. What was the other question?
Second is, do I have to have 5 different apps? Yeah. And who's managing you guys basically, really from a customer perspective? Everybody wants to manage me, but I feel worried as a customer, right? Giving all those guys my data.
The power is in the customer. I would say if an app is not working or 5 different apps are not efficient.
Do I need one to enjoy your services, or
you will need one app? You will need a app. You will need a app. The app itself will probably have to be integrated into a system. In order to be efficient for the user. So it's always about the user and the user experience. I think that has to be showing us the future and the road that we have ahead of us.
Jack, do you also want my data, or you want everybody's data?
I've told my son, don't own anything, own the data in the future. So that's the money. That's why the Israel now own all the data because they fight so much on the battlefield. But just kidding. But what we need to do is to stipulate from a governmental point of view, how do we manage that? I remember that when I deal with our shareholder, the Tencent, Baidu, and all these guys, they're on the board of our company. Really, the data management is the future key. And if we can manage that right, we can do a lot of things. For instance, motorbike. Anybody ride the motorbike here before? All right, there's a whole bunch of people riding on that. You know, the best city now utilize the mobile between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning. Which city is that? Is Shenzhen. Because this got the most popular pub, the bar, the restaurant, the midnight cowboy places in China. And you can use that data. I can see actually the bike riding during that period because after 12 o'clock, there's no more taxi. There's a whole bunch of things. So these are the things that's already there. Mobike use that to analyze their user experience. For us, we can own that, but it's only within our blue sky team, as I mentioned. But I want to manage that to be, spread to the other manufacturer. Everybody can own the data. From a point of view, association to manage it is right. Otherwise, it will be getting out of hand in terms of the data safety and in terms of the hackers. Those are the things need also to work with the government as well. So I think we need to manage this in a very cautious way.
Mm-hmm. What's JC's answer? Do you have your own app or a sharing app, or do you want to own the data?
It is correct. 这是一个非常重要的一个问题，非常可怕的一个问题。其实这个数据呢，将来应该是个保障，我们自己这样低温的，包括我们广汽，我们自己也在建这一个云平台。当然，我们这一块其实还是更多的要开发合作，我觉得但这个合作共赢，我觉得这是一个开发的态度。特别是互联网时代到来之后，我们车也不是一个封闭的一个环境，那么这个生态呢，应该是一个开放共享的一个环境。那我们把我们车做好，但是跟车的数据，我们这一个是必须要把控的一块，就是说，当然这个车的数据呢涉及到很多，可能涉及到隐私的，那么我们尽可能会避免去把它，或者是把它做一些处理。但是数据这个对客户这个分析，包括这个数据的，包括车的数据，比如说这个发动机的数据，那么这个是我们车企必须要掌握的一块关键的一些内容。那比如我举个例，其实广汽在这块已经做了很多尝试，我们自己开发了一个智慧传奇。那么结合我们 T-Box 也是我们广汽自主开发的，我们通过这个 T-Box 就是这个 Telematics， 我们可以收集车的发动机的通过总线看总线收集到这个发动机或者是这个空调灯这些它的各个 ECU 的这些数据，我们都可以收集到。我们也在跟一些互联网公司，包括 BIT， 国内 BIT 公司都在进行合作。那么他们可能更关心的就是这个平台这个数据，我理解。但是这块数据我们原则上是车本身的数据，我们原则上希望我们广汽自主掌握，我们也有这个能力。但是跟他们可能就有一个共享的分享的概念，他们也会把一些数据分享给我们，对我们都是有用的。只有把这两种数据结合在一起，那才能真正发挥这个数据的作用。如果单独运用这个数据，可能都不能真正发挥这个数据的作用。所以我们也在积极尝试，怎么样和这些 BIT 公司来更好的合作，相互坦诚的合作，先实现一个共赢。OK。
Thanks a lot. Looking at the time, great discussion. Please continue your questions. Send the questions. Scan the QR code. Send us your questions. If you want to get any of the reports, any further question, we continue the discussion with that group. Thanks a lot to all of you to join the discussion here on stage. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Please stay in the room. So we have the next panel coming up, Smart Cities, and after that we have changing consumer choices. Thanks. Thanks, Anna. Thank you.